All right, here we are. This is the Stageable podcast, www.stageable.com. My name is Benjamin Reed. I am the founder and CEO, and we discuss the performing arts industry and looking for a sustainable future for performers of all kinds. And I'm joined here by my good friend, David Deaton. David, thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I know a lot about you, David. We are good friends, but people who might be watching this may not know who you are and what you do. So would you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and what you've been up to?
So my name is David Deaton. I originally am from North Carolina. Me and Benjamin met in Nashville, Tennessee at school. And at that time, I was playing a lot of music. I was in a band for about 10 years there. Music's always kind of been the main focus creatively for me and something that I've always been really connected to since I was young. And I mean, music career-wise, to talk specifically of the arts, is, a lot of kind of college touring, side gigs to make the money while we would go on the road. And then since then, I've done more touring with different artists, more as a hired gun. I currently tour with one artist. We do minimal touring, but it's just kind of me and him a lot of the time. And I also create a lot of music. Recently gotten into film scoring over the last few years. I've done one film and a lot of just kind of small scoring projects that aren't related to, major projects or anything, but just a lot of creative outlet that I still pursue in music. And I've kind of bounced back and forth between West Coast and East Coast, and currently in North Carolina. And that's a little bit of the nutshell of the artist side.
I'm just always finding some way to have an outlet. Creative outlet.
Yeah, always need the outlet. I know it's something that's really important to my mental health and just kind of the presence of life. I think I feel different. I think different. I notice a big influence on my life when I'm actively creating.
So you mentioned, being in a band, being on tour with a different musician, and then doing film scoring. Which of those three has been the most lucrative?
Most lucrative would be touring with an artist. And that's kind of the only consistent paid gig that I've had. In the band, it was very much just we make the money we can. Most of it goes back into the band. And every now and then, if there's a little extra, we'll dish it out for some pocket money.
Yeah.
And the film scoring, that was more of a passion project with me and a friend to create a full-length film. But that's something I think eventually could lean into more of a...
You just created a full-length feature film. Like it was just like no big deal.
I mean, you're right. It took about 4 years total.
Right.
And it was, he did a lot of work on the editing side. I made all original music for the entire film. So about... all said and done, about 120 minutes of original music. So that was a big project, but also one of the most fulfilling ones I've ever been a part of.
How do we find that?
You can find it on Amazon Prime. It's called Between Giants.
Between Giants on Amazon Prime. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew about this. I haven't seen it.
Really? Okay.
No.
Well, I'll have to send you a link. I could probably find a free version out there. Otherwise, I think it's $1.99, which I can Venmo you.
No. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
$1.99. I can take it.
Yeah, no, it was a really long project. Me and a friend did a 2-month bicycling trip in the Indian Himalayas, and basically we tell the story of the trip. We kind of talk about bike packing in general. We talk about the culture of India, and a really big theme of that film is the people that we came in contact with and how kind of loving and open they were. So I think for me, a lot of it was trying to create sounds that represented the feelings that we had there. It was fun because I got to take a lot of samples while we were on that trip. And I mean, there's just so many different sounds. India is a place of full sensory overload. So there are sights, smells, sounds going on like to an extreme. So I got to capture a lot of sounds and turn them into different kind of beats and like integrate them into some symphonic scores, and even some original songs.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and also used some of the music that we made as a band back in the day, some of the instrumentals.
I truly can't believe that I haven't seen this. This is like
I know,
kind of crazy.
I'm surprised too.
But
I'm sure we talked about it at some point, but it was also some years ago now.
well, so I think I always knew that it happened or was
Mhm.
happening. I think I missed the release and didn't know that I could take part in it.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like one of the things about the platform that I want to build is like, I feel like there's a lot of these missed connections, like there's the audience and there's the people making the art. And it's like, the problem is they can't find each other, and it's like what Spotify did was create the central marketplace to go. And I know like, there's bad things about Spotify and where it's gone. And even, I guess, from its inception, I don't know too much about it, but I know my impression is that it has never been that great to the artists. But I mean, it did connect the people who wanted to listen to music and the music itself. And I think that there is just so much of that misconnection of like, you made this incredible thing. I had actually known about it, but I didn't know that it was out there in such a way that I could interact with it until right now.
Part of that may be that I haven't been very vocal in the marketing side of pushing it, but also I think it's something that is in this big pool of creative projects that tons of people, especially now with the access to create a music and film, we've all got a high quality. I mean, the film that we took a camera with us that ended up breaking, a Sony Alpha Series camera that broke, and then we did everything on iPhones. So
wow,
pretty much anyone could film a feature film on iPhones and make it work. So
yeah,
I think there's so much out there because of the access to creating, which in a lot of ways is a good thing, because humans creating is kind of the essence of who we are, but it also adds a really big pool of what there is to consume, and everyone has limited time.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. And I do think we're all creators kind of innately. We make a lot of different stuff, depending on our interests and our backgrounds and our personalities, but I think everybody makes things.
Yeah.
And they come in all kinds of different formats. And yeah, I think we are all artists in so much as we give ourselves the allowance to be artists,
Yeah. Well said.
But we sometimes put our own limitations on ourselves. So, something that you said stuck out that I wanted to go back to, which is that I think a lot of artists are not great at self-promotion, like you said, like you weren't great at putting it out there. And I think there's something about not wanting to shine the spotlight on yourself. It's like, if someone's going to shine the spotlight, let it be someone else's choice,
Right.
And I connect with that a lot. And like, I wouldn't be the kind of person who like would start a company, like a theater company, and then cast myself as the lead in a play, you know, or even at Green Room, we started doing, I own a wine bar called the Green Room in Stanton, Virginia. And we started doing an open mic there. And
amazing.
Yeah. And I was hoping it would turn into like something connected to live streaming, and it sort of did, or it's going to. We like morphed open mic into something called Live at the Green Room, which is like where we host either bands or performers, and we now have the capability to take it to a digital medium in real time, and hopefully only getting better at that. But what I was going to bring up is that as the owner of the wine bar and the one doing the open mic, I was like, I don't want to play music at this open mic. It's like, that's weird. Like it's like, this is my thing. I don't want to then get up there and be like, oh, I got this microphone. Now everybody listen to me sing a song,
Yeah. Well, if you put yourself later in the set, I think something like an open mic, I would actually encourage you to get up there and do it as well, just because I feel like that is another connection between you and the people that are there to experience the thing you're giving. But
Yeah.
I do know what you mean. I think like, if you had a theater company and you were the, lead in every play, then it'd be like, oh, this is a lot of
It's like
self-indulging.
conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's like, how can I, of course I'm going to think I'm the best person to play this role.
Yeah.
Let's let somebody else make those decisions. All right. So as a performer, what's your take on kind of where we are in 2025? What's the state of, I mean, I know I'm a performer in theater and sometimes film, but not very often. And you're a musician primarily. Like what's the latest from your perspective? What's going on with live music?
Well, so I mean, I'd say right now I'm playing maximum maybe 5 to 10 shows a year. So I'm not super active and involved in the live performance arena all the time. So I don't know that I've got major insight. But I think that, I mean, we just went through I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, but like
Right.
went through a global
Still
pandemic
feels like just.
where like all of these things that we were so used to having access to were taken away. And I think there was the feeling of a loss that, for me, it was like, oh man, what if I don't get to see some of these favorite artists that I haven't been able to see before? And once that opens up, I really want to start taking advantage of it. And I think I have, like, as a consumer, I've definitely gone to more shows since everything kind of opened back up. The live arena, in a lot of ways, I think there are pros and cons, there's struggles. I think it depends on the level of artists you are. For smaller artists, so much of the industry is streaming revenue. I think it's like something like 80 or 90% of the music
Is it
industry
really?
revenue is from streaming.
From different platforms or?
From different platforms like
Okay.
Spotify, Apple Music. Yeah. And like you said, you hear artists talk about it all the time, that there is a disproportionate amount of money going towards services when people are getting paid out. I think Spotify pays like, it's like 0.003 cents per play or something. And that's after you get 1,000 plays in a year. So it's like, there are a lot of people that are able to put music on Spotify, but very few amount that are actually able to make money off of it.
Yeah.
I think you can make really good money off of it. I know artists that do, but
You got to
it's
get like
something,
a ton of listens.
yeah.
It
And how you
doesn't
get those,
leave a whole lot of room for like the more niche artists.
no. But the counter to that too, though, is like through streaming, you're able to see the amount of people in the regions that you would want to tour in, because there's people that are paying attention. Because if you go and you play on a Monday night at a bar in, like Bowling Green, Kentucky, and there's only 2 people there, it's like, well, we're playing live, we're doing the thing that we want to be doing and that is important, but nothing's really coming back to you for that. So it's like, it's hard to sustain that. So I think costs for people are a big concern. So it's like, how do you make money on the road? And that's a big question. If you're a small artist, I'm not sure. I think you have to be creative in how you're getting people there, whether that's like going through production companies that can put local bands on the bill with you, so they actually bring out people. That's kind of how we tried to do it back in the day.
Mm.
But yeah, I think, another thing is like tickets. When it comes to most like normal major events, it seems like the similar thing. It's like there's Spotify and Apple Music on the streaming side. On the touring side, the ticket industry is all like Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and
Right.
they're able to control prices. They're able to, you're having to pay fees to them, so they're making tons of money. I don't know how much goes to the artist. I'm sure, a lot of artists that are established have, guarantees at the shows they're playing, so they at least know they're making a certain amount of money. But I think a lot of the times that's covering your expenses, and then you have to sell merch. So it's like getting in front of people, selling a physical product. But in order to do that, again, you have to have streams, and you have to have some sort of online presence. I think that's one of the really interesting things about the industry right now is like, you can't just be a musician. You have to be an online personality. People have to like see you in everyday life, or like you have to come up with some sort of funny way to engage online. So it's like you're having to do something outside of the skill set that you may have, which some people nail it. Like there's some really great examples of artists that just have such a cool, I mean, they've got like a TV show essentially on their Instagram feed or TikTok or whatever. And other artists, if they don't have that, it's like, well, you have to break through somehow. And I think there's probably just a lot of really good artists that aren't able to really break through because they don't have all of the other facets that, plug them into getting in front of people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was kind of like snaking around a lot of different topics, but I think live music is necessary. I think it's something that I don't think there's ever going to be a point where people don't want live performances. It's been part of like artistic expression for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And I think some sort of like real-time art will always connect with people, whether it's in person or virtually. I think with Stageable, I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of bridge a gap between the live performance and instead of just like, watching a video of something to watch something in real time with other people. Yeah, I think is necessary. And, the live aspect too. There are a lot of venues that were, struggling in the pandemic that got bought out by Live Nation and things like that. So, I think in a lot of industries, there are usually people that figure things out and are at the top and then are able to create a monopoly and then control the industry in some ways. But then you also see people pushing back against that and being more vocal about it. So I think there's always going to be kind of a push and pull, but live music in general, I think is wanted. I think it has its difficulties though. It is expensive.
Yeah. This is outside. I was talking to a theater artist, and it's like, they were saying we can only lower the ticket price so much because, all these people have to get paid, like nobody's time is free. And like, you've, like you said earlier, there's expenses to touring, and those expenses have to be paid if the tour is going to happen at all. And if you go to stageable.com and look at the about, that's sort of the argument that I lay out as like, we all have had these great experiences seeing a live performance. And I think that the smaller and independent organizations or bands or, whatever it might be, they're the ones who are kind of under threat. And as we introduce more and more platforms like Spotify or, Ticketmaster, or, we start consuming in droves the same thing, then it's like, oh, those people are now making all of the money or the majority of the money, and the independent artists are forced to stop making their art and go find something that will pay the bills. And so I think my hope and goal is that we can kind of crowdsource and connect, again, the audiences to the stages. So it might be a venue, or it might be there's more resources out there, I think, for live musicians like bands.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of something like there's, like a classical, like we do classical music and we do a festival once a year, like something like that, I think would make a lot of sense. So like, if this doesn't receive some support, it's not going to last. And yeah, so my hope is that we can kind of crowdsource, and people can recognize that if they, can bring that support with their subscription or their membership with these different performing arts people, that they can preserve the ability to make live performances still a thing on a small scale.
Right. You're investing in the success of, kind of a genre of entertainment in a way, but it's like the purity of a lot of independent artists too. I think people want, like, experiential things are what people want. People want to experience something. So if you're an artist that can craft a meaningful experience, an intentional experience, and if you can do it with, more innovative ideas and budget cutting ideas, then it can help you, but also like it allows you to get more out to people, I guess,
Yes.
if you're using something like Stageable.
Well, that's what really gets me psyched as an entrepreneur is I'm like, yeah, let's stick it to Ticketmaster,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
screw you guys, and all of the power that you have,
Mhm.
and let's
I
get
just got
money.
chills.
Let's get money
I
directly
feel it too.
from the people consuming the art to the people making the art, and let's really shake up the industry and stop.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lower that barrier. And this is something as a theater maker that's always been frustrating because not only do you need, you know, the equipment, the instruments and then the space to perform in, but you also need like a set designer and a light designer and the
Mm-hmm.
marketing and all that stuff. And that is where I think there is crossover, where it is similar in that it's like, man, you got to be all this stuff. And it's like the people with the big teams end up getting more and more, and the people who don't end up getting less and less. So it's like, I do think we're in an era where if we can figure out how to connect with audiences better, faster, and on a more personal basis, we can kind of totally change the landscape of how all this goes.
Well, and kind of to your point of making people kind of feel like they have equity in it. It's like if it's something that they are part of the creation process, like allowing people to create more, therefore getting more to consume in a way. I mean, it's like the amount of things that are out there to consume. If you know that like you're giving to something that you are seeing the return in, it's like you don't have to search as much because I'm going to go here and I have been putting equity in this and helping this process happen because I believe in it. And now like I continue to get dividends from these performances that I get to take part in and share in. It's an
I don't have to
experience that you get
wade
with other
through,
people.
the murky depths of Netflix to try and find something that's worth, spending an hour on,
Right.
like you've already found that and connected with it. And now they just keep bringing you more of what you want.
Totally.
So yeah, I think, and it's like, it's never been easier. It's like you said earlier, it's like we're all carrying around supercomputers in our pockets with
Mm-hmm.
amazing cameras attached directly to them. And I think, I was also telling you before we started this, that this for me is really about seeing that change. It's like, I want to see that change. It's not about becoming a Spotify. It's about power to the artists, and let's make more good stuff out there. And the other thing I love about it is that it democratizes the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whoever can connect with their audience, let them win. Whoever can figure out how to build that community and how to capture the content in a way that makes sense and in a way that people want to then participate in it, they get to win. And it's not just the big, the people with the big budget.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a group of musicians or a band or a organization that you think is like, oh, they're kind of figuring it out? Like, who is there? Anybody who comes to mind?
I guess like a couple people come to mind.
Like on the
One,
smaller scale? Go ahead.
well, I was going to say on a little bit of the bigger scale, there's like Chapel Roan, who's kind of exploded. I mean, they're one of the biggest names right now in music. And then on a smaller scale, but like growing scale, and one of my personal favorite artists at the time and has been for the last couple of years is called Medium Build. Something I think both of these artists do well is this like sense of, it's like unapologetic honesty about their vulnerabilities and their quirks and their downfalls, and they kind of say it like it is. And it's, for me, it's like I hear Medium Build songs and I'm like, oh, I feel all these things. I wish that I could have the courage to say those things to some people or to be vulnerable in a way. I think a lot of people consumer wise now, I think authenticity is such a big thing, especially there's so much that can feel cookie cutter and just like a product that has been put on a, conveyor belt that we've got we have the formula, we're going to just crank it out because it's a moneymaker and people listen. And I think there's kind of a trend in this authenticity of like, oh, this is real. This is like raw. It's honest. I think both of those artists and others are doing that in some ways, but Medium Build is the one for me that I think I've just kind of seen him really start to blow up in the last couple of years. And I mean, he's a phenomenal songwriter, but it seems like he's also got a good team and good people around him. But yeah, I think that's the main thing that comes to mind is like this unapologetic authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think people like are just, they zone in on that. Like you see someone doing something that like sometimes even makes you like cringe a little bit or like a little uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, that's bold. And that's them being themselves. And they stay true to that. Yeah. I mean, and he's doing some tours in like smaller towns, like where it feels like more of an experience too. I just bought a couple tickets up in the Northeast that he's going to be playing, and it's all, I had to look up several of the towns because like I haven't heard of this town. I wonder if it's cool.
Oh, cool.
And it's probably some places that are like in a barn or it's adding to the experience of like going to the show and experiencing it with other people.
Yeah.
So I really like that approach where it's trying to be a little different and being open to be a little different and trying things. And some of them may work, some of them might not work, but to at least try and kind of like shake it up a little bit, I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
especially
really cool.
with, I mean, we're in this transition into like technology keeps getting crazier and crazier. AI keeps getting crazier and crazier. So it's like, what is that going to do to art? That's a whole nother podcast conversation right there of like AI and art. But I think there's always some sort of reckoning or balancing that comes where it's like, well, if things get too shiny and too perfect, people are going to want things that are messy and like people think, some people are like, oh, this doesn't sound like music or this doesn't look like art. It's like,
well, that just led me directly back to like authenticity, right? Like when we're able to make so much stuff so quickly, I think we're already seeing it on streaming platforms where it's like, oh God, there's so much noise. Like, I don't want any of this stuff. There's like, sometimes there's something great in there, like there is some great stuff out on Netflix or on Amazon Prime, but you've got to know what you're looking for and know how to find it.
Yeah.
And so I think in an era of AI art, the desire for something authentic and real and true is going to be harder to find and more valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Which is exciting. I think there's always hope, as much as sometimes I can get to the place where I think, it's all the good stuff is over. It's not. There's innovation.
I'm glad to hear
like,
you say that.
Yeah, those are just the small dark moments that probably come from a lot of other places. But I think, there's such a craving for connection, and we connect through expression, and art is such a beautiful way to express the things that are going on internally with us, our experience as a human. And in a lot of ways it's a language. I mean, that's what it is. Art is a language that we use to connect with other people. So I think it's always going to have a huge place in society.
Sick. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so we sort of already have been speaking about this, but the last question I've got on my page here is, what do you think the future holds for live performance, and like how will it change as we introduce more tech and AI and things like that? I mean, we sort of were touching on it, but I guess like in real terms, what does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on a lot of it. I think there's one thing we haven't really touched on is kind of the sustainability factor of it. Touring in general, I think you start to hear some bands are saying like, well, we're not going to go on tour because like, the emissions of the tour bus and the planes and, the impact on the environment. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing that just stops people from touring. I highly doubt it. Maybe the future of touring is electric buses, something like that. But, there's that aspect. I think there's the access aspect. Again, I think a lot of it comes down to how can you create unique experiences for people to take part in, and create a space for people to do that, whether that's a live space in person, whether that's a digital space on the internet, like Stageable. I think there's going to be probably more merging of that, like more access to live performances, especially, I mean, you could go down the VR route too. Like,
Yeah.
It hasn't totally taken off as quickly. I thought after the first VR goggles came out, it was just going to be like tomorrow, everyone's going to have them and it's going to be like a VR world. I think there's probably still plenty of innovation in that world that's going to create a sense of live performance that you can get digitally that will, it will be a decent substitute. I mean, I think watching something on your computer or on your TV is like great. And I think to be able to experience it in real time, I've watched plenty of concerts live streaming that I haven't been able to make it to. And it is more special than like watching it afterwards.
I agree.
I think the VR thing will take that to the next level where it's like, oh, you look around and you see people beside you,
totally.
And that exponentially will get, bigger and better.
Better. Yeah. Let's see what I was going to say. So in theater, like there tends to be this like, well, if it's not live and you're not there, then that's not the thing, right? So it's like for a play, right? You have to be the whole point is like you got to be in the room. And after COVID, it was like, we don't want to do any more things with the internet. We're just going to do our stuff in person here. And I think that's such a mistake because like you were just talking about, as these new technologies come out, the important thing is recognizing that there is a distinction here, right? Like an apple is not an orange. So like a canned stream of a performance on YouTube, like, so it did happen live at one point, but you're watching the recorded version of that at a later date. So you're watching it at 8 a.m. and it actually happened at 10 p.m. That's not the same as watching it in real time. And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other or one is more right or, I mean, I think we all tend to think that being there in person, just like this, if you and I were together across a table instead of through multiple screens and internet, that would be better. But because we can't be in person, this is a pretty good alternative. And it allows us to do something different and we still get to connect. And if it was VR instead of through a flat screen, maybe that's better. Maybe it'll take time for the technology to catch up. But the whole point of this rambling train of thought is to say, like, if we embrace the fact that they're different and use them like a different color on our palette to paint with, then we can make something of value, and the better we can live stream a performance. And this is, I think, the big thing that people so far are missing is that they're like turning on the live stream, as if you're a fly on the wall. And they're not thinking about the fact that there are real people behind that camera participating and that they matter just as much as the people who are at the thing, and it's like, we need to straddle both audiences. We need to hold them both in our minds, and whoever is producing the video and audio and then the performers themselves, right? Like we need to bring them into the room with us in as many ways as we can think of, as creatively as we can think of.
Yeah. I mean, to interact as an audience member too, it's like, when you're there, the height of the interaction really is like clapping and wooing and, things like that. But, you see people on live streams, if they're doing like a Instagram live stream, you get the little heart where you can just, you can heart it where it's like, oh, you're acting in some way to like, not necessarily influence, but you're part of, there's an extra layer of connection there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're involved. I mean, even
You're
if that
involved.
is writing a comment, and I think as technology gets better and better, we're going to be able to play with that in totally different ways, So like you think about the classic, the band calling out to the audience of like, what do you want to hear next? And free bird.
Yeah.
But like you can do that. You can type it out and they could see that and engage with it, and all of a sudden you sitting on your couch at home are participating in the thing that's happening in Atlanta, Georgia, It's like, that would be pretty rad if Bruno Mars was like, oh yeah, I'll take that comment, mentions you by name.
Totally.
So I think there's just a lot of room to run, and I think it's easier than ever. The problem is that it requires us to learn a thing or two about a thing or two, and we as human beings are notorious to not want to do that kind of work,
Yeah. You have to innovate. You have to brainstorm. You have to try and fail.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think failure is the thing that keeps a lot of people away from it. If you can fail for them and innovate for them as well, then you're going to have a platform that really adds to people's short experience on this earth.
Well, I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of failing.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it. Let's fail and fail better.
Hey, I'll fail with
forward.
you, man.
Nice. Yep. All right, David.
Love it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for
I appreciate you and what you're doing.
Being willing to jump on here and have a conversation with me, and for all that you have made and all you will make.
Yeah, appreciate you too. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. All right, that's it. We will catch you another time.
All right, take care.
Bye, David.